I'm Marja Merentie, and it's a pleasure to be moderator for this session on consumerization of SME banking. I have my two guests from wamo and Froda, and may I ask you to introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. Should I start? Hi, everyone. My name is Oliver. I'm one of the co-founders of Froda. So I've been with Froda now 9 years. Froda's ambition is to really bridge the financing gap that many SMEs experience throughout Europe by providing seamless financing to partners like wamo, for instance, where we embed our microfinance capabilities into their platform.
My name is Yanki Onen. I'm founder of wamo. We are a fintech company based and established in Finland. We provide financial services for SMEs, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve the problem of turning the SME services into consumerization of the SME financials.
Perfect. Welcome both. And I think that this trend, consumerization, it's right now rapidly kind of reshaping the whole way that we do business transactions or commercial payments, and also the expectations of B2B buyers are changing and evolving, and it's heavily influenced by the innovation that we see on the consumer payment space. So starting with you, Yanki, what do you think, in which or in what ways SMB banking has been lagging behind consumer banking, and also how is the consumerization as a trend shaping those expectations?
That's a really good question, Marja. I mean, if you look at the consumer journey in terms of how they actually became the consumerized or the full-service platform services offered to the consumers, it was all from unbundling of services, giving a basic service and adding on top of it as well. Now we look at it, it becomes a platform solution to consumers to have multiple services in the same financial product. Financial services sits in the core of everything when you're going to be doing, but when you look at the SME segment, it becomes much more fragmented and difficult to service them because you have multiple financial partners that are providing multiple services that you cannot put in the same platform as of today. But this is what we have trying to solve, and Froda is one of our partners that we're going to be doing this in this journey as well. The whole thing is, an SME journey, I mean, it starts with about minimum 3 fintech partners. You got a banking partner, you got a payment partner, you got an expense and an accountancy partner that does everything, but they're not all connected together. So when that happens, it becomes a financial burden in terms of the companies to manage their finances. It becomes a burden in terms of the admin. The costs are increasing. So what we realized early in our journey is we need to put multiple products on the same tech stack. And when you do this, you don't need to develop every single one of them. You meet with financial partners, you aggregate the solutions into the same platform, and you start providing a value proposition where you could actually bundle pricing, give them an advantage to SMEs. This is exactly the journey we've been on. And Froda is one of our really ambitious partners that we're going to be pushing on the lending, because one of the key things that the current banking and fintech difference is mostly on the lending side of things. And if you look at the market share of the banks and the fintechs, you got all of the fintechs combined have got a less than 5% market share, but then you add that to the banks, they get about 94% market share. So you wonder, what is that thing? Because the tech stack is much better at the fintech space. When we ask that question to customers, they say we get a credit relationship with our banks. So the minute fintechs actually start solving that problem and combining additional services on the platform, it will become an operating system for businesses to work. And that's our ambitions to do so as well.
Yeah, interesting. And how about you, Oliver? Where do you see the biggest gap has been?
Yeah, I think when it comes to expectations, so small businesses, there are, just like the latest panel said, they have the expectation as a consumer because, I mean, they're just as much consumers, and there's no CFO typically. And if you look like corporate banking is typically quite complex because there is a CFO in the other end that can kind of spend time on a more complex system. So what we need to do is to find a way to give these small businesses the same seamless experience that the consumers have. And one is, like Yanki said, is to find a way to serve them in one platform with all the different services that they need. I think also we have to really challenge when it comes to speed, for instance. I'm not prepared to wait 4 weeks for an account when I want to start my business. That's just something that has to happen, and it has to happen quickly. From our perspective, it's like we expect that we're moving away from the reality today where a small business would be willing to apply for a credit, wait for weeks, and then get an answer, yes or no. What we can do now, together with partners with WAMO, is to give them a real-time decision. And I think what's coming in the future is that they're not going to apply. They want to be offered the credit, right, just in time for different kind of perspectives. So it's really moving that kind of slower, more complex experience of corporate banking into this really smooth, seamless journey that we are used to now as consumers. So I think that's the big trick. And at the same time, you want to give a lot of transparency, keep the customer in control. They want to know what's happening. So you have to be very transparent, and also on the control aspect, give them flexibility. So as an SME, I would like to be able to self-service in the app, repay, lend more, whatever I need. And I think also not being forced into a banking office. Many of our customers do their banking with us between 9 in the evening and 1 in the night. So you have to be always on and always open.
Exactly, that's a good point. And how about, Oliver, what would you say that how can we drive this innovation of SMB financing by leveraging the cards?
Yeah, I think for us, card is a vehicle. So it's like Linus said earlier on stage. It's no longer just payments, right? It's an enabler to do innovation on. And for us, what we've done and what we're doing with WAMO is to use the card rails to have a really seamless experience for the end user. So we're all used to enrolling our cards when we do shopping or a new subscription or whatever it is. So that's an experience we're super comfortable with. So that's something we brought into the lending experience. Instead of seeking mandates for repayments via direct debit or whatever other solution, the customer just enrolls the card, and payments, payouts, and repayments are all taken care of, fully automatic. They don't have to worry about it. So it's back to that kind of seamless experience and creating that for the end user. And in addition, for us scaling now out into Europe, the fact that we can use the Visa rails is so scalable. There is not really any other solution that scales in the way that the card rails do. So it's fantastic from that sense. Exactly.
And Yanki, anything that you could add?
Yes, as a matter of fact, cards are one of the most innovative products you could actually launch out there, as the embedded lending side is done by Froda. What we're actually dreaming about is building smart card proposition to customers. End of the day, I mean, AI frontier technologies come into our life. The next journey is going to be agentic AI or other finance functions, or even the accounting function can actually be reconciled into the same transaction flow. If you build smarter cards, that could actually be done through rule-based models. And the best partners to do this is like of Visa, because you guys are way ahead of everything else from what we have seen. I think the next journey in the cards is going to be a lot more exciting. It's going to be a lot more powerful propositions, not just basic limits or the distribution of funds, but getting the funds, doing the, let's say, when you're doing a spend on a purchase or some sort of an invoice payment, you could program the card, make this invoice payment to this partner, only to this MCC code with this amount, come back with the receipt, put this into an accountancy platform is the way to go.
And Yanki, how about, because in the previous session, I believe it was Juho Putkonen who said that the one with the best UX is the one owning the customer. And it all seems to be down to this UX when we are talking about the consumerization and the gap between what businesses are experiencing compared to their private lives. So what would you say, let's say, like what role does UX play in driving adoption of fintech services among SMEs compared to larger companies?
I mean, one of what our customers' experience tells us is they are very limited in terms of their usage. They only use a few services, and if you don't actually give them insight in terms of, you know what, this is what you could have done, this is a product on your platform, UX doesn't go as far, because the basic problem is still not the UX. It's, you know what, I don't have access. I'm still underserved. I cannot get into the financial system to be able to operate properly. The banking, that support that comes in, it's still not there for SME. So I guess UX is the next stage of that journey that becomes more embedded, more basically integrated and aggregated in sense of data. But it has to give more insight to the customers for them to be able to make better decisions in terms of their transaction data. And doing this fully automated in the journey of the UX is, I think, the next ambition.
Anything you want to add, Oliver? Because obviously Froda is well known of kind of instant loans and quick decisions, and the whole UX seems to be the USP for you guys. But
yeah, and I think it's I mean, it's driven by the end user. It's what they expect. It can't be too easy though. So that was interesting in the beginning of Froda's journey. If it was too quick, you scare them off because it's a trust product, like most financial products. And I think that comes back to kind of the transparency issue as well. You have to explain what's happening in this step and why am I actually doing this step? Why am I sharing data here and not? So as quick and seamless as possible, but still maintaining that kind of trust.
Exactly, not too quick.
Not too quick.
Yes. Yeah. Makes sense. Oliver, I believe it was Tuesday this week when you together announced this exciting news regarding Wamo and Froda partnering up in order to strengthen this SME financing in Finland through card-based lending and also instant loans.
Exactly.
Yes. Could you tell us a little bit more about the partnership, that how it will be unlocking innovation for small businesses?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's a nice story. We're actually wrapping up. It started in the parking outside at the same event last year. I met Yanki for the first time, and we started to discuss the partnership. So now, 1 year later, we're live, which is great.
Let's do it. It took a while for.
Yeah, but it's fantastic, and now, I mean, what we always want to do is to enable our partners to serve their SME in a better way with financing. So a Wamo customer now has a credit available in the Wamo app, and it's always on, and it's calculated in 10 seconds. So as soon as you agree to sharing data, you will have that credit line available for you to use, parts or all of it. And I think the neat thing is that once I choose to have Wamo as my banking partner, that's where I put my trust. So what we created is a fully native experience. It is a Wamo credit. It's powered by us, but it's really your product.
We basically designed the journey together.
Yeah. So it's I think it's coming back to this, that we're creating a platform where the small business can have all the services they need. We're a small piece, which is the financing piece, and leveraging cards. Once again, it's convenience for the end user. It's the speed, definitely. So coming back to the native experience, if I have a credit with Wamo, and I choose to use that, I expect the money to be transferred instantly, right, from my credit account to my transaction account. So we can use Visa Direct to push money, so it ends up in seconds in the transaction account, and is available to use for whatever use you have as an SME. I think also one additional kind of benefit is that we're leveraging something that Wamo already has set up. So as an issuer, the whole card infrastructure is already there. So integrating with us becomes easier because the money flows is already taken care of. That infrastructure is in place. So that's also a benefit.
And Visa played an important role, Marja, because your team actually introduced us to Oliver, and I've been bugging him since last year. Let's do it, Oliver. We got a lot of ambitions. We actually are trying to take Froda to different markets we're in, because we need that ambition. I mean, in Europe, if it's so funny, because Nord is so far advanced in terms of everything else from the south, and you don't even find an alternative lender in a lot of the countries we're in. And what that means is there's a huge unserved, unmet demand to be able to support businesses better. And the more bundling and platform choices you could actually put on the same thing, you have better pricing capability to offer even services in a much more advantage and make money from the, let's say, the transactional elements, not just the direct cost to the customer. So everything becomes a lot more smoother and much less costly for the customer as well.
Exactly. So look forward to see and hear the outcome. Maybe next year you can see and share a little bit more kind of results out of this. Yeah. Great. Then Yanki, this is probably the most interesting question from my point of view. So what do you see is the biggest untapped use case for cards in SME financing services today?
Has not actually worked into the B2B payment space yet. Cards have always been there, and consumers are using for almost 90% of their purchases in their daily life, but businesses are not in that space at the moment. And when you look at that, they are still using the traditional banking rails. The settlements are done to the banking rails. You could actually do much better servicing and instant settlement with the cards if you are be able to do this. But the customer haven't actually asked for that solution yet. From their side of things, they use it to basically for purchases of flights, travel bookings, basic ad spend, and this is where a lot of that stuff goes on. We did this testing in Malta, as a matter of fact. It's a small market where you could actually do a lot of innovative stuff and then get feedback from the customers. The tax department was not able to reconcile transactions through the banking rails for about 3 to 6 months. It's a scary thing, but it's actually there. So when we told them, listen, you guys are offering payment services, but your customers are not using it. So we are going to create a campaign, give customers a cashback on government payments, which is not interchange eligible, just to give you a heads up. So we did this as a campaign. And we, from 0 to almost 6 million in less than a few months, tax department thanked us for them to be able to reconcile properly. Customer thanked us because they were getting calls from the tax department, the taxes are not paid, but they were actually being paid. And we also gave them a benefit. All of a sudden, it was a match made in heaven.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Thanks for sharing. And how about you, Oliver? Anything out there that you would like to conquer leveraging the card rails?
I think the cool thing of being in the B2B space is the volumes, right? So looking at financing, there is an estimated 400 billion financing gap in the EU, and it's an immense opportunity, of course. But then if you look at the money flows, that is so much bigger. And you guys know this better than me, but it's trillions of B2B payments that are actually not on cards and are typically on slower and just non-customer friendly rails. And I think trying to capture that and the possibilities to innovate on card rails is just immense. So I think there's so much more we can do to catch those flows, and for us, of course, to find ways to improve the journey for the SMEs by attaching credit where it's needed in these payment flows.
Indeed. And I kind of like keep repeating this number of 0.8% out of all B2B payments in Finland are on card rails these days. So it's really not low number, but I do see that with this kind of collaborative innovations, like we can definitely get that.
We are going to be offering a lot of cashback to businesses. We want that to support them in best way possible. So it will just be a great journey for them to experience at one point.
Exactly, and also reason to why they would use the business card and not the personal one. So those benefits that you mentioned is definitely a key. I don't know if there's anything to add on top of what you said, Oliver, but I had this last question that what is the next frontier for SME finance and how will card infrastructure to be part of that change? Like a little bit more widely, maybe.
Yeah, but I think we still need to innovate a lot. I think one of the things is, as I mentioned earlier, to switch from expecting customers to apply for credit to actually offer credit when they need it, whether it's an invoice payment or kind of any other purchase where credit kind of could be helping the customer. So really moving from this apply for something to just offer in time. That's gonna be a challenge and something we're looking forward to. I think also an enabler of this is the vast amount of data that's available, because that's the tricky part, I think, with SMEs. They're a little bit harder to evaluate from a credit perspective, but the data is out there, and I think now together with AI, we can really leverage that data to make sure that we're not just offering credit, we're doing it responsibly. So that's also something where I see a lot of development. I think when it comes to cards, once again, it's just a way to increase the seamlessness in the user experience. And also, I think, the kind of flexibility to make sure that the customer is in control and they can choose when to and when not to use the credit. I mean, the Flex Credential product, for instance, that you're offering, we're having a lot of discussions in France, for instance, where customers sometimes want to pay direct, sometimes they would like to have like a super deferred debit, as the French call it, so buy now, pay 9 months, and other times they want to buy something and pay it in installments, and you can do all that in one card. And I think that's a really cool kind of feature we can build.
Kind of flexibility that it creates. Yeah, anything that you can reveal regarding your kind of future plans?
In terms of, the ambitions, we are in such a new industrial revolution at the moment, and AI is going to change a lot of the things we do. And what Oliver actually mentioned really, and that's something really important, having a foresight of what that customer need in the next 3 to 4 weeks or even end of the month in terms of cash flow visibility, giving them an insight, having them available limits is going to be the game changer. The more insight and better visibility you could actually put in front of the customer with respect to that data, how they could actually monetize it further, what they're paying more, what they could pay less. If the receivables are coming in at a late day, you know what, you are going to need 10K to be able to pay your salaries because your money has not been paid, or shall we finance that invoice for you to be able to get a better runway to be able to manage your cash flow? That's how the financial service is going to be integrated into the customer's life cycle. And to be able to do this, you need to bundle a lot of services into the same mix, collect the data, aggregate it, process it, give a better insight, and also foresight for the customer to be able to manage their businesses. I think the whole journey is going to be much more different than it is today. I'm super excited because it's going to be really, you're going to be able to run a business that is multi-million dollars with less than 10 people. That is a big game changer.
Yeah.
We'll have more entrepreneurs down the line than employees, so that's also really exciting.
Exactly. So from my point of view, the future looks like bright.
Indeed.
Listening to you guys. So we have some time left, so any questions from the audience to Oliver and Yanki?
We got the last man standing today, so the strongest audience in the house.
Exactly. If not,
Yes, please.
Warm thank you for you both.